Hello, YouTubers, friends, compatriots, bootlicker shills, death slayers, peasants, vassals, minions, meat sacks, history buffs. I'm a useful idiot. Welcome. And let's go to the good old USA. Only let's go to good old USA back in the past in 1933. And I think most people, at least my viewers, and a lot of people on YouTube certainly know this episode in U.S. history about the fascist coup, attempted fascist coup in the United States in 1933. And for those who don't know about it, it's going to be quite the revelation because this is, I think, one of the more dramatic events in all of U.S. history, certainly recent U.S. history, and remarkable that it's not talked about more. But certainly we understand why it's not talked about more. There's a lot of reasons why this story is pretty buried, and a lot of people have reason for it to continue to be buried because let's remember that 1933 is not that long ago. And do you think the agendas really changed? The methods changed, but the agenda doesn't change for these corporations. And in this case, the corporations are the ones you would suspect were behind trying to set up this coup in 1933 and involved the likes of J.P. Morgan, other Wall Street banks, and a lot of corporate giants like DuPont and General Motors. And so these are the people behind this. And to give a sloppy synopsis of the story, after World War One, U.S. soldiers were promised a bonus, and they were going to receive the bonus in 1945 of $1,000 enlistment bonuses. And of course, by the time the 30s rolled around, the Depression was in full swing. A lot of the soldiers wanted their bonuses now. Very understandable. And so there was a famous what they called the Bonus Army. And the Bonus Army marched on Washington, D.C. Back in the 30s. And in fact, Smedley Butler, the Marine Corps general, represented the Bonus Army in Washington, D.C. And General MacArthur and General Pershing were the ones who were in charge of routing the Bonus Army in Washington, D.C. And I guess there were casualties and tents were burned, and it was quite an affair. But the general, the Marine General Smedley Butler, had quite an illustrious career and was chosen by the conspirators to lead this coup. And they wanted to harness this bonus army to march on Washington, D.C. and depose Franklin Delano Roosevelt and get rid of the New Deal program and all that. And so some background on Smedley Butler, of course, he's the general who was involved in all these corporate wars in the Third World at the turn of the century and then turned against the war machine and the military-industrial complex, wrote this book, War is a Racket, describing all the ways that corporations were making profits off of war and the fact that the United States Army at that point was used to propagate corporate power in the Third World, and he exposed that. So an interesting choice, but they knew he would have the respect and could lead this bonus army, one of the few people who could. So they got a hold of him. All this is documented, and in fact, what Smedley Butler ended up doing was basically stringing them along to find out who was involved, try and get closer to the top, where the money was coming from, and everything else. So this event almost actually happened. And let's remember, in the climate of the 20s and 30s, particularly after the Depression, a lot of corporate America, and particularly the banks, all admired the rise of Hitler and Mussolini, and fascism was very stylish and admired at the time, and the collaboration of corporate power and industry and the government was something that a lot of people here admired. They liked the order that they were seeing in those countries, and so corporatists got together here. And in fact, the Bush family, Prescott Bush, was apparently involved in this scheme. But anyway, so Smedley Butler strung it all along, and then he blew the whistle on it and exposed it. And I was always curious because I've seen some documentaries on this, and the whole event unfolding is really fascinating. But recently, I finally read this book, The Plot to Seize the White House, by Jules Archer, and it gave me the answers I was looking for as to why this incredible plot, a corporate plot to establish a fascist dictatorship in the United States, not only did it was it an amazing, and it failed, but why did it just kind of dissipate? And this book answered that question. The fact is that just as we see nowadays, the media, the corporate elites got involved, and Smedley Butler and this this plot, this coup, was getting too close to the top, and some very important people, and therefore the corporate media aligned and basically couched it in the terms that Smedley Butler was some kind of nut, and maligned the story, and ridiculed it, and basically buried it, and then that's exactly what happened in government as well. We have hearings and plenty of documentation of these hearings, but in the end, it was just a dog and pony show, and this chapter of history was allowed to die a slow death. Well, Smedley Butler certainly recognized this at the time, and so there we have it. The coup in 1933, the corporate coup. Like I say, for those who don't know about it, check out the documentary I have attached below. It's really, like I say, one of the more fascinating points in U.S. history. But boy, what a sad and disheartening end to find out what I wanted to know about why that story went nowhere, when once again the elites gathered the wagons around in a circle and protected their own, in spite of this incredibly treasonous, heinous act of corporate fascist pro-Nazi coup attempt in the United States of America in 1933. Not that long ago. I'm a useful idiot. Don't you be one too.